The punch hadn't even dried before my daughter hit the floor. 1 second, Lena was holding a plastic cup of red punch with both hands, nervous but smiling under the rooftop lights. The next, my sister's hand struck her across the face so hard she crumpled like a doll, right there between the champagne tower and a chorus of gasps from 200 guests. For a moment, the rooftop was silent. No music, no chatter, just my daughter's small sobs against the glittering skyline of Scottsdale. And then came the words that will echo in my mind for the rest of my life. "She ruined everything," Vanessa hissed, her ivory engagement gown clinging wet against her skin, a blood-red stain blooming across her torso like a wound. "Get them out of here." My mother didn't ask what happened. She didn't check on Lena. Instead, she turned to me, her voice sharp and venomous. "You've embarrassed this family for the last time. Take your child and leave." Before I could say a word, 2 security guards in tailored suits appeared behind me. One gestured toward the exit. The other reached for my arm. "I can walk," I said through clenched teeth. I bent down, scooped Lena into my arms, and walked across the floor with 200 eyes burning through my spine. No one stopped us. No one said a word, except for the sound of phones clicking and the faint click of Megan's camera from the far side of the room. That was the night I didn't just lose my family. I lost every illusion I had ever held about them. The idea that maybe one day they'd see me again. See her. I'm Caroline Hayes, 35 years old, freelance illustrator, widow, and the mother of a 10-year-old girl with more courage in her little heart than most adults I've ever met. Her name is Lena, and until that night, she still believed she had a place in our family. I had worked hard to build a quiet life for us. After my husband Daniel died in a highway crash 3 years ago, I kept everything going, the routines, the rent, the soft voice lullabies to help Lena sleep through the first year without him. We lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of Scottsdale, in a complex with cracked sidewalks and desert plants that somehow kept blooming. It wasn't much, but it was ours. And that night, under the glitter of chandeliers and polished glass, they ripped even that feeling away from us, all because a child spilled a drink, and because the people who were supposed to love us chose their image over our existence. That was the last time they ever got to make that choice for us. People always said I was the quiet one, not shy, not timid, just quiet in the way a shadow is quiet, always there, always watching, never asked to speak unless someone needed something. My family didn't see me as someone with a voice. I was the background until that night forced them to hear me. Before the rooftop, before the punch, before the silence, there was us, Lena and me. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment off Indian School Road on the edge of downtown Scottsdale. The carpet was old, the cabinets creaked, and the water heater groaned like it hated being woken up. But the walls were filled with Lena's art, colored pencil foxes, glittery rainbows, a series of self-portraits where she always had a bigger smile than in real life. And I worked from home, a freelance illustrator for children's books and stationery companies, piecing together deadlines between grocery runs and bedtime stories. I wasn't rich, but I could pay rent on time. I wasn't glamorous, but I was stable. And for a long time, that felt like enough. Daniel, my husband, had been a structural engineer. He died in a freeway accident just after his 38th birthday. 1 minute, he was on the phone with me, telling me he'd be late. The next, I was staring at a clipboard in the emergency room, being asked to sign paperwork I could barely read. Grief didn't crash like a wave. It seeped like water under the floorboards, slow, quiet, inevitable. But Lena got me through it. She was only 7 when he died, and yet she held my hand every night for weeks. "It's okay to cry," she'd whisper. That's who she is. Soft, thoughtful, deeply observant. She notices when I forget my coffee in the microwave or when the neighbor's cat limps. She loves sticker books and fairy tales, and she still asks me if I think Daddy is proud of her. I always say yes, but the rest of my family, they don't ask. They never did. Margaret and Henry Hayes, My parents never forgave me for marrying Daniel. He didn't come from money. He was the son of a welder and a school secretary. He didn't golf. He didn't attend Ivy League galas. He didn't know his place, as my mother once said when she thought I couldn't hear. At our wedding, they barely smiled in photos. After his funeral, they left without saying goodbye. And then there was Vanessa, the golden one, the prodigy, my little sister. She had the same last name, but none of the weight that came with it. Vanessa was born to sparkle, blonde, blue-eyed, 5 feet 8 inches and camera-ready since birth. By the time she was 20, she had 500,000 followers for her cooking blog. By 25, she was a brand ambassador for 3 lifestyle companies and had an agent negotiating 6-figure deals for her wedding content. And I was the sister who couldn't even get a reply to her emails unless there was a holiday photo op Vanessa, and I hadn't spoken in over a year when the invitation arrived. A thick, cream-colored envelope with a golden wax seal and a faint scent of jasmine perfume. It looked more like something from a royal palace than a family event. You are cordially invited to the engagement celebration of Vanessa Hayes and Adam Wexler. No note, no handwriting. No, we hope you'll come. Just a name, a date, and a dress code. Formal. I almost threw it out. But Lena, she saw the envelope in my hand and lit up like it was Christmas morning. Is it from Grandma? She asked, hopeful. It's from Aunt Vanessa, I said. Her eyes widened. Are we invited? I paused. I looked at her face, bright, expectant, so full of want, and I couldn't crush it. Yes, I said. We are. I should have trusted my instinct the moment we stepped out of the elevator. The Palmera Terrace was perched on the top floor of one of Scottsdale's most luxurious hotels, all glass and gold and glittering artifice. You could see the whole city from up there, its desert lights flickering like stars too impatient to wait for the sky. Inside, the rooftop was dressed like a movie set. String lights curled above our heads. Soft jazz floated through hidden speakers, and men in black vests wove between the crowd with trays of champagne and tiny hors d'oeuvres I couldn't pronounce. It was excessive, cold, beautiful in the way a museum is beautiful. Don't touch, don't breathe too loud. Lena gripped my hand tightly. Her lavender dress fluttered slightly in the breeze. She wore her hair in a half braid, a plastic daisy clip tucked above her ear. She looked up at me and whispered, "Do I look okay?" "You look perfect," I said, and she did. But even before we crossed the room, I felt it. The shift, like the air thickened just because we existed inside it. Heads turned, conversations slowed, and those practiced smiles, tight, forced, polite, snapped into place. My mother saw us first. Margaret Hayes in a navy blue satin gown with pearl earrings that probably cost more than my rent. Her hair was pulled into a bun, so tight it looked like it hurt. She walked toward us without hesitation, her heels clicking against the tile like a metronome of judgment. When she reached us, she gave me the barest nod. No hug. No hello. Nothing for me. Then she looked down at Lena. Her eyes scanned my daughter like she was inspecting a misfiled document. "Who let you come here?" she whispered harshly. Lena blinked. "We were invited. This is not a playground," she said through gritted teeth. Then she reached out and placed her hand on Lena's shoulder, just firmly enough to make her stumble. Lena lost her footing. Her little fingers squeezed her cup of punch tighter as she caught herself. And that's when it happened. The cup slipped. It tumbled through the air in slow motion, its red contents spiraling out in a perfect arc. For a moment, the entire rooftop froze. Then the punch landed directly on Vanessa's dress. The crowd gasped. Glasses stopped clinking. Somewhere in the distance, someone muttered, "Oh no," under their breath. Vanessa looked down at the crimson stain blooming across her midsection. Her ivory gown, hand-embroidered, custom-tailored, influencer perfect, now ruined. Her eyes lifted, found Lena. "You stupid little girl," she shouted. Lena took a step back, trembling. I didn't mean you ruined my dress." Vanessa shrieked. Do you have any idea how much this cost? And then she raised her hand. I couldn't move fast enough. The slap landed before I could blink. A sharp, open palm crack that echoed across the marble floor like a gunshot. Lena let out a cry and stumbled backward, tears springing from her eyes, one hand clutching her cheek. I dropped my clutch and ran to her, falling to my knees as I pulled her into my arms. What is wrong with you? I screamed at Vanessa. She ruined everything. Vanessa spat, her voice breaking in frustration. She's 10. I shouted back. She's a child. Margaret stepped between us. You never should have brought her here, she snapped. Then Henry appeared beside her, face blank as concrete. Take your daughter and go, he said. I just need to explain. I started, but Margaret cut me off. No, she said sharply. Then she turned. Security. 2 men in dark suits stepped forward from the far end of the room. I stared at them, stunned. Are you serious? Please don't make a scene, Henry added. I held Lena tighter, stood up and walked. My heels clicked against the marble like defiance. Lena buried her face into my neck, still sobbing softly. No one stopped us. No one said a word. But somewhere in the crowd, Megan, a woman I hadn't seen in years, held up her phone. She was filming. I met her eyes for a second. She gave the smallest nod. And then we were gone, escorted out of a party we never should have entered by people who never truly wanted us there in the first place. The apartment was dark when we got home. I didn't turn on the lights. I couldn't. The street lamp outside cast a soft orange glow across the room, catching on the worn edges of the couch and the stack of Lena's library books on the coffee table. Everything felt quiet, too quiet, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Lena was still trembling when I helped her change into pajamas. Her cheek was flushed, the outline of Vanessa's hand barely visible beneath the skin. I dabbed at it gently with a cool washcloth, but my own hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it twice. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry, baby. She didn't answer, just curled into a ball on the bed, her stuffed fox hugged tightly against her chest. I sat beside her, staring at the wall, at the drawings taped up, the princess castle, the cartoon tiger, the birthday card she made me last fall. All of it radiated innocence, safety, home, and I had walked her right into that storm. My phone buzzed. I jumped. It was a message from Megan. Hey, I don't know if you saw me at the party, but I recorded what happened. All of it. I couldn't just stand there. Do you want me to send it? My breath caught. My finger hovered over the screen. I typed one word. Yes. Seconds later, the file appeared. I tapped it open. There it was. The entire thing. Start to finish. From the moment Margaret shoved Lena's shoulder to the arc of red punch flying through the air, to Vanessa's slap, my scream, and the way security flanked us like we were criminals. And Lena, her sobs, her confusion, her fear. I watched it once, then again, and again, every frame seared into my memory. But it wasn't sadness I felt this time. It was something deeper, sharper, rage. The kind of rage that doesn't burn fast, it smolders. It waits. I walked into the living room where Lena had curled up on the couch, the stuffed fox still tucked under her chin. Her eyes were half closed, but she stirred as I approached. Mommy, she whispered. I'm here, baby, I said, kneeling beside her. She blinked. Was it my fault? No, I said, firmer than I expected. None of it was your fault. She was quiet for a moment. Then her voice came soft, barely a breath. I didn't mean to ruin anything. I just wanted to be part of the family. That sentence, so small, so honest, cut deeper than anything Vanessa had said. I pulled her into my arms and held her like I could somehow press the pain out of her body. And then she did something I'll never forget. She sat up, took my phone from the coffee table, opened the video. I think people should know the truth, she said. She positioned the phone, sat cross-legged on the couch, and looked straight into the camera. "My name is Lena," she said, her voice calm despite the redness on her cheek. "I'm 10 years old. Yesterday, I went to my Aunt Vanessa's engagement party. I spilled a drink by accident. She hit me. Then they kicked us out. That was it. No drama. No tears. Just the truth. Quiet. Steady. I stared at her, at the tiny warrior sitting in front of me. Megan had done her part. Now it was my turn. The next morning I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't shake. I just opened my laptop, typed 4 words into the search bar, and stared at them. Child assault lawyer near me. I'd never filed a legal complaint in my life. I'd never even contested a parking ticket. But as I sat there, watching the sunlight fall across our scratched-up dining table, I realized something. I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was a wall, a line in the sand, a shield with edges. By noon, I had an appointment. Megan had recommended someone she trusted, a child advocacy attorney named Carla Reyes who had handled abuse cases for over a decade. I didn't even hesitate. I grabbed my purse, left Lena with Eleanor, my late husband's mother, and drove straight across town. Carla's office was warm, lined with books and soft lighting. She didn't offer me tea. She didn't make small talk. She just listened. "What happened?" she asked, hands folded. I took a breath and told her everything. When I handed her the video, she watched without blinking. The moment Vanessa's hand struck Lena, Carla paused the footage. The silence in the room was thunderous. "You have a case," she said. "A very strong one." I exhaled long and slow. "We're filing criminal charges against Vanessa Hayes for physical assault of a minor," she continued. "And we'll add emotional neglect and endangerment against your parents, Margaret and Henry, since they failed to intervene and escalated the situation." She said it like a surgeon describing a clean incision. Precise. No emotion. Just truth. That evening, I sat down with Lena. We were back home, eating popcorn on the couch, some animated movie playing quietly in the background. She still had a faint bruise blooming just beneath her cheekbone. She looked so small curled up under that fox print blanket, and yet so steady. "I need to tell you something," I said. She turned to me, eyes wide. "I talked to a lawyer today. We're going to court." Her fingers wrapped tighter around her stuffed fox. "Are we in trouble?" she whispered. "No," I said gently. "But they are. This isn't just about punishing them. It's about making sure they never get to hurt you, or any child, ever again." She nodded. Her voice was small but sure. "Are we going to win?" I brushed a curl behind her ear. "We already did," I said quietly, "the moment you told the truth." By the next day, Reyes had filed the paperwork. A formal restraining order was granted. Jessica, Margaret, and Henry were now legally barred from contacting or approaching Lena in any way. The video Lena recorded was submitted as part of the evidence package, along with Megan's footage from the rooftop. Carla filed the complaint under the Arizona Child Protection Statute, apparently slapping a minor at a public event, especially by someone with no parental authority, wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a crime, and enabling that crime, pretending it didn't happen, calling for security instead of stepping in, also a crime. It wasn't just a case. It was a message. You don't get to hit a child and walk away clean, not anymore. Megan didn't post the video without asking. She texted that evening, her message careful, respectful. "I know this is sensitive, but if you want the truth to be heard, I can help share it, only if you say yes." At first, I hesitated. I wasn't interested in drama. I didn't want Lena's pain turned into content, or strangers debating whether we were attention seekers. But then I watched Lena's recording again. Her voice, her calm, the quiet heartbreak in her eyes. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't for spectacle. It was truth. "Post it," I replied. Megan did. She edited nothing. No music. No filters. Just the raw footage. First Lena's short, steady statement, and then the uncut rooftop video. The red punch, the slap, the silence, the screams. By morning, the clip had over 200,000 views. By lunch, it was trending. Hashtag Justice for Lena was on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Parenting bloggers reposted it. Advocacy pages weighed in. Even a few verified accounts, authors, pediatricians, activists began sharing it with captions like, "This is what generational abuse looks like." Protect children, not reputations. People weren't just watching, they were enraged. She hit a child and no one stopped her. Where were the other guests? This happens all the time in perfect families behind closed doors. And below all of it, one sentence appeared again and again. "Lena, we believe you." 2 days later, Vanessa responded. Of course she did. She posted a video on her own platform. It began with soft piano music and a close-up of her tear-streaked face, makeup just smudged enough to look authentic. "I'm deeply sorry for how things appeared," she said, voice trembling. "I was under so much pressure that night. Things were misunderstood. I love my niece." She never said Lena's name. She never mentioned the slap. Instead, she implied the incident had been taken out of context and suggested people were manipulating footage to hurt her brand. Then came the worst part. She hinted, subtly, sweetly, that maybe I had coached Lena. Maybe my daughter had acted out for attention. I was shaking when I saw it. But Lena, sitting beside me on the couch, looked up from her sketchpad and said calmly she's lying. "I know," I said, but the world knew too. Vanessa's comments exploded. People were furious. She hit a kid, and now she's crying for followers. Caroline, we believe you and your daughter. Save the fake tears. The internet has receipts. By the end of the week, Vanessa had lost 3 brand deals. Her upcoming wellness line launch was canceled. Sponsors released statements distancing themselves from her. It was a digital storm. But for once, it wasn't raining on us. It was the 3rd night after the video went viral when the knock came. I wasn't expecting anyone. Lena was already asleep, curled beneath her fox blanket, and I had just finished packaging a few Etsy orders when I heard it. 3 soft knocks against our door. I looked through the peephole and froze. Adam Wexler, Vanessa's fiancé. Or maybe not anymore. He stood in the hallway wearing the same gray suit from the engagement party. His jacket gone, tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. I opened the door slowly. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked, voice low. I didn't answer. I just stepped aside. He walked in quietly, glancing around like the space felt unfamiliar, sacred. When he spotted Lena curled up on the couch, her stuffed fox pressed to her chest, his entire expression changed. She stirred, eyes blinking open. When she saw him, she went still. Her fingers tightened around the toy, but she said nothing. Adam knelt beside her. "I'm so sorry for what happened to you," he said softly. "What Vanessa did, what your family did, it was wrong. And you were really brave to speak up." Lena gave a small nod. That was all. He turned to me. I didn't want to believe it at first. I saw the clip and thought, it must be edited. There must be some explanation. But then I saw the full version. The crowd. Your mom. Vanessa's face. The slap. He exhaled, slow and tight. "There's more," he added. That night, after everything happened, I couldn't sleep. Vanessa kept talking about PR strategies, damage control. She mentioned a brand partnership tied to the wedding. I remembered we had a shared folder for our planners, so I looked. He pulled out his phone, opened an email thread, and handed it to me. There it was, messages between Vanessa and her manager. She'd been negotiating a $500,000 influencer deal around the wedding coverage, framing it as a rising woman's story, packaging herself as a success who forgives her imperfect sister for past drama. There was more, discussion of a prenup she'd secretly drafted, favoring her, setting herself up to transition out of the relationship once the hype settled. She never loved me, Adam said, voice flat. She loved the version of me that looked good online. I stared at the phone, at the words she had typed. I broke it off this morning, he said. Called off everything. Told Vanessa. Told your parents. I pulled out of all pending brand deals and shut down every contract with her name on it. Lena, still watching from the couch, asked quietly, "So, you're not going to marry her?" Adam gave her the gentlest smile I'd ever seen. "No, Lena, I'm not." He looked back at me, his voice steady now. "You were right, Caroline, about all of them, and I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." Then he left, and for the first time in years, someone stood beside me not because they were obligated to, but because it was the right thing to do. 3 days later, I got the email. The subject line was short, cold, and impersonal. Urgent. Private family resolution requested. It was from my father. "We need to talk. This has gone too far. A private resolution meeting has been scheduled. Attendance is expected." Expected. Not requested. Not hoped for. Just expected. No apology. No remorse. Just entitlement the same way it had always been. For years, I would have deleted something like that without hesitation. But this time I didn't. I forwarded it to Carla Reyes. She replied with a single line, "If you go, don't go alone." I took her advice legally and emotionally. I made sure Lena stayed with Eleanor that day. I wasn't taking her anywhere near that room. The meeting was set in a rented conference space in Beverly Hills. Neutral, professional, glass walls and beige chairs. The kind of place where bad things are disguised by good lighting. When I walked in, they were already seated. Vanessa sat with her arms crossed, wearing oversized sunglasses indoors like she was shielding herself from judgment. My mother wore a crisp cream blouse, hair perfectly coiffed, face taut with performative concern. My father didn't even look up. I sat across from them, calm, grounded, not because I wasn't angry, but because I had already decided what I'd say if they tried to twist this back into something small. Vanessa spoke first. "You've embarrassed this family beyond belief," she snapped. "You let your daughter post lies." "They weren't lies," I cut in, voice sharp. Margaret sighed dramatically, like she was exhausted from all my inconvenient truths. "Caroline, this could have been handled privately, like adults." "You mean swept under the rug?" I asked. "Like you did when you ignored my husband's funeral? Like you did when you said I'd ruin the family name by marrying someone who didn't golf?" "You're being dramatic," my mother snapped. "No," I said, leaning in. "You're just not used to being confronted." My voice didn't shake. Not once. "You did this to yourselves," I added. "And you don't get to clean it up now, just because the internet decided to watch." Before anyone could respond, the door opened. Adam walked in. Vanessa turned, stunned. "What is he doing here?" Margaret hissed. "I'm here to make something very clear," Adam said, voice calm but loud enough to echo. "Vanessa, you used me. You used your niece. You tried to turn a child's trauma into a brand narrative." He placed a folder on the table. "These are formal terminations of every contract we had. I've pulled every investor. The wedding's off. The deals are dead. And I want nothing to do with this circus anymore." Vanessa's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked like someone watching her empire collapse in real time. Henry finally spoke, voice strained. "Adam, let's not make a scene. You already did," Adam said, turning on his heel. I stood too. I didn't need to stay another second. But Vanessa, always needing the last word, shouted after me. "You always wanted this, didn't you? To ruin me." I stopped at the door, turned. "No," I said quietly. "I wanted you to love us. But since that was too hard, at least now we're free." Then I walked out. Lena was in the next room, coloring with Eleanor, completely unaware of the scene unraveling behind a glass wall. She looked up when she saw me, smiled, ran to me like there was no other world. That meeting didn't just close a chapter. It ended a legacy. The next morning, I woke to sunlight that didn't feel cruel. Not the harsh kind that blinds you or mocks your pain, but the soft kind, the kind that gently presses against your skin and says, "You made it through." Lena was still asleep, her cheek finally free of tension. I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a warm mug of coffee, listening to the quiet hum of a world that no longer asked me to shrink to survive. The apartment, Daniel's apartment, felt different. For so long, it had been a museum of what I'd lost. But now, it felt like the place where something new had begun. The freelance work was steady, but something in me had shifted. I didn't just want income. I wanted purpose, something that spoke louder than the silence I had lived with for years. That afternoon, I started sketching. Not for a client, not for a deadline, just for me. I drew Lena's fox in a superhero cape. Then I drew quotes, ones I wished someone had told me when I was 10 or 25 or 35. And from those sketches, something unexpected began to grow. I built a small online shop, a blend of digital prints, empowering affirmations for single moms, child-friendly art kits, and illustrated stories with quiet, fierce truths. I called it Z plus C Studio. Within a month, we had over 10,000 followers on Instagram. Orders started coming in. Parenting blogs reposted my designs. A children's charity reached out to collaborate. And Lena? She became my unofficial co-founder. She helped pack stickers. She drew doodles that I turned into prints. She'd hold them up and ask, "Do you think other kids will like this?" I'd always say, "I think they'll love it." And they did. The same community that rallied behind her voice now supported our healing. Not just financially, but emotionally. It was like the internet, for all its chaos, had become the village I never had growing up. Eleanor checked in often, brought groceries, took Lena on library trips. She'd once been my mother-in-law. Now she felt more like a guardian angel. Megan visited too, usually with cookies and updates about the ripple effect of Lena's video. "You didn't just go viral," she told me. "You created a fault line." As for Vanessa, she tried a few more times to spin the narrative, but it never stuck. The more she spoke, the more people saw through her. Her voice lost its grip. Margaret and Henry obeyed the restraining order, mostly out of fear for their reputation, but also, deep down, I think they knew. They had crossed a line they'd never be invited back from. And I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. One evening, Lena and I sat on the floor, surrounded by sketchbooks and snack wrappers. She looked up and asked, "Is this what normal feels like?" I thought for a moment, looked at her face, her freedom, her joy. "Not just normal," I said. "This is what safe feels like." It was a quiet Wednesday afternoon. Lena was at her desk drawing a fox in a superhero cape with rainbow wings. I was answering customer emails, sipping lukewarm coffee when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in me said I needed to. "Hello," I said. There was a pause, and then a voice I hadn't heard since the meeting. "Caroline." I didn't say anything. "I'm not good at this," my father began. "Never have been. But that day in the meeting, I heard what you said, and I realized I should have said something a long time ago." I held the phone tighter. My other hand curled, slightly, knuckles white. "We hurt you," he continued. "Not just now. For years. And I let it happen. I let your mother, your sister, I let it all happen. I don't expect forgiveness. I needed you to hear that, at least once." There was silence. Not awkward. Not tense. Just quiet. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Then I added, "But I'm not carrying this anymore." He exhaled. The sound of it cracked through something old in me. "I understand," he said. Then he hung up. No pleading. No explanations. No demands to come back. Just the sound of a door, finally, gently closing. That night, I opened a box buried deep in my closet. Inside was an old photo album, dusty, frayed, the kind filled with memories that weren't mine. Pictures of Vanessa at recitals, Vanessa at birthdays, Vanessa in the middle of every frame, and me, off to the side, half visible, forgotten in print, just like in real life. Lena sat beside me and pointed to one picture. "Why weren't you in more of them?" she asked. I smiled faintly, brushed her hair back. "Because they didn't see me." She looked at me, steady, clear-eyed. "Well, I see you." And that was it. The words I didn't even know I had waited my whole life to hear. The next day, I packed the photo album into a cardboard box and slid it into the back of the closet, not to erase the past, not out of hatred, but to make space for the life we were building. One made of soft mornings and loud laughter. One that didn't require shrinking or apologizing. One where Lena was never invisible, and neither was I. A few weeks later, I did something I hadn't done in years. I booked a trip. Just the two of us. No family. No obligations. No guilt. Just freedom. We went to Sedona, Arizona, a place I had always dreamed of but never let myself claim. There's something about those red rocks and open skies that had called to me for as long as I could remember. We stayed in a small cedar cabin nestled beneath the cliffs. No Wi-Fi. No headlines. No reminders of broken bloodlines. Just peace. Lena ran the trails during the day, collecting little stones and naming every cloud animal she could find. At night, we sat on the porch wrapped in thick blankets, sipping cocoa and tracing constellations. One evening, as the sun melted into the desert horizon and painted the rocks gold, she leaned her head on my shoulder and asked, "Do you think they miss us?" I didn't pretend to misunderstand. "Maybe," I said, "but missing someone doesn't mean they were good to you." She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Will we see them again?" I took a breath. "Maybe," I said, "but not if it means we have to be small to fit into their world." She nodded slowly, looked up at the sky, and said, "I like our world better." "So do I whispered. And I meant it. I didn't just walk away from a party that night. I walked away from a lifetime of shrinking myself, of swallowing silence, of trying to earn love that came with conditions. I walked away from the weight of being the forgotten daughter, and into the light of being enough for my daughter, for myself. As we sat there on that bench in Sedona, the desert wind brushing through our hair, stars beginning to blink awake above us, I realized something. This wasn't the end of our story. It was only the beginning. A beginning written in Lena's laughter, in the soft rustle of sketchbooks, in cocoa-stained mugs and open skies. Not in their approval, but in our truth, our world. And this time we chose it.